Hello folks, we are here at the UK Gaming Expo. I'm here with Richard Dennings at Medusa Games and obviously one of the organisers of the show as well. But we're going to be talking about some of the new stuff and also what's coming up from you folks as well. We're going to be starting with an expansion to 9 worlds, which is Creatures and Monsters. Could you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so Creatures and Monsters looks at the kind of the monsters that are the sort of in the mythology of the Norse universe and also Anglo-Saxon mythology. So the idea is normally in 9 worlds, of course, you're doing battle over the 9 worlds to try and get area control and this sort of thing. But what we've done is introduce the threat of all these monsters in the game. So as well as sending your armies off to the 9 worlds, you may decide to send some of them, onto this warriors' hall. So they're all going to gather to go off and fight the monsters. And at the end of the turn, all the players will take it in turns to then move their stones onto these monsters. Okay. So there are varying levels of spots on there, which are there, if you like, hit points, if you like, and that's what you're going to need to defeat the monster. And players can cooperate or decide not to, as the case may be. So green and purple here had a bit of a go at these Valkyries, but green has done the most. It's got the most spots on there. So these have been defeated, and that's great. And what they're going to share the rewards, which are these sort of little bonus tokens here, which they can use in the game to either, usually in the 9 worlds, to give them extra armies or to steal someone else's army or do that sort of thing. But also the monsters themselves are worth points, and whoever's done the most defeating a monster will get victory points at the end of the game. But the monsters have on them monster powers, which you again can use in the game. If you don't defeat the monsters, however, by the scoring rounds, then the players have to share penalties. Which will be taken by the players who have done the least. The worst ones will be the players that have done the least.
So you're encouraged to semi-work together.
Semi-work together. So if we take an example here, this werewolf hasn't been defeated. However, the blue has got 2 stones on there. Because it's got 2 stones on there, that's what this 2 means, it is immune from the penalties. However, the other players in the game are going to have to take it in turns to choose one of these penalties, which might be having to take a stone back off the board or throw one away or have somebody else move their pieces for them, that sort of thing. So there is that semi-cooperative thing about we really want to defeat these monsters so that we don't take penalties, but on the other hand, sometimes a player may decide to ignore the monsters completely, just go on the 9 worlds. So the other players might think, we're going to leave you can suffer the consequences of not helping the fight, as it were. So it's another element. Then what happens after the monsters have been defeated? These symbols that are on these cards say where the stones go to. Okay. So in this case, this one would go back. This would go to Valhalla. This one would go to a player's home world. This one would go back to their card. Other symbols go back into reserve or go to any of the 9 worlds. You can choose where, or potentially for the higher level monsters, some of them go to Helheim, which is the underworld, where you're scoring negative points now. Okay. So to defeat the real nasty monsters that come out in the sort of second half of the game, which are things like sort of what have we got? We've got frost giants, Jormungandr, the frost. You've got the stone trolls. Loki's my favourite. He's probably the toughest.
I love that he's in there. That's great.
And his world power is one of my favourites. So you can choose any of the 9 world powers, which essentially means you're sitting there scheming away, thinking, "What am I going to do this turn to muck things up for everybody else?" So it gets tougher and tougher. But you notice Loki has more bonuses. There. And he's worth more points and so on. So, but to defeat him, a couple of stones are going to have to be banished to Helheim. So you're really taking one for the team, as it were. So that's Creatures and Monsters. So it does bring a new sort of dynamic of this bit of moving stones there. They may be locked up for a turn or two until that monster's defeated, and they're going to come back onto the board in a variety of places. So that does bring a sort of different strategy of thinking, okay, I've got that stone coming back, but maybe not this turn, it might be next turn, so I'll leave a hole for it to come back into. So that's
Adds another nice element to the game. I also love the artwork. Who's the artist?
Andre Schneider. So he's done our 9 worlds on Magnificent Flying Machines. Tinker Tailor. He will be doing some artwork for us for our next game, and he's just really good at this sort of. And this was the first one he did. Well, Nine Wheels was the first one he did for us, and we met him in Essen Spiel in Germany, and he was walking around with a portfolio and happened to flip open to one with a dwarf on with lots of runes. So we thought, well, we know exactly
that's got to work.
Where this would work, and it's really good artwork and things.
Right, we're going to sneak around here. So Shay's going to follow me around, and we're going to look at another game as well. So we're going to sneak around to this side. So we're going to go around this bit of the table. So can you tell us a little bit about what this game is all about?
Okay, so this is a prototype of Oranges and Lemons. This is not obviously finished artwork, although it's a bit of a sort of layout concept. We've got some sketches over there of Andre's actual artwork suggestions. This is a bit of stock art, but it gives you an idea. So Oranges and Lemons is based upon the nursery rhyme, Oranges and Lemons, say the bells of St Clemens. But if you dig back into the history of that rhyme, there are many, many verses. We've got 15 verses on here, not the 6 that we could all recite in the modern version. So and all of those were associated with areas of London and the industries or things that went on in there.
Right. Okay.
So we've taken that. So Oranges and Lemons, so the bells of St Clemens is St Clemens was the fruit markets and the wharfs where the fruit was brought ashore. So you can go there to buy lemons.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's a worker placement game that you'll be placing your workers in these locations. So other areas are to do with selling those goods, money lending, potentially getting involved in politics, to become Lord Mayor. You may invest in the East India Trading Company, which is a high risk but potentially high reward. So if you go there,
sounds about right for the period.
You're drawing sort of ships out of a bag there.
Oh, right, okay.
Some of those are sunken ships, so that's the risk element. But then potentially you can get lots of things for it. One of the elements in the game is that a lot of these were the bells. They talk about the bells of. So one of the things the players can do is they can put bells in the locations. And each of those locations has a bonus if you've got a bell there. You're basically becoming a benefactor of the parish, and they give you some reward. So that might mean cheaper lemons, or it might mean that you can get a bit more return on when you're selling goods. When you loan money, you get higher interest rates, that kind of thing. And one of the sort of, I think, relatively unique mechanic in this is the player sequence changes dependent on where you are going. So in the first phase of the game, you'll be placing your workers, and you'll have 2 workers to start with, but into locations around the board. So let's say this. But then as the areas activate, they go back on the score track in the order that the areas activate.
Oh, right, okay.
Changes every turn of the game, so you can.
I love variable turn orders.
So that play early to try and guarantee that thing, or some of the more lucrative, powerful ones are towards the end of the turn. But you've got to cope with the fact you're going to be going later in the turn sequence, perhaps. So it's a game we're working on. We potentially something for 2023, maybe 2024. It's now something we're taking around conventions and doing play testing and getting feedback, and as you can see, the artwork is starting to happen. This is the first time we've showed this sort of concept board. Until now, it's been My Blue Peter style.
Here's one we made earlier.
That's right. But this idea we thought was, what we really want to do is actually have a nice bit of the City of London happening, with the areas associated with each of these activities. But also we need the bits with the mechanics on happening. So this is the idea of having this sort of these corners with the bits with the mechanics, and the rhyme is almost like a ribbon going around it. But then next to it would be the areas. So if you focus in on these areas, there is, this is actually the fruit markets. You can actually see there's bullseyes and targets, the bells of St Margaret's. That was the archery butts. So we've got some archery butts going on here.
I always love that when you have art that matches up with the mechanics and what's on the tables and stuff.
Whitechapel's where the bells were made. At the moment it's just an enormous bell, but we're going to do things that are associated. So some of them might be the actual churches. So it might be that we have 1 or 2 of the churches. And I think, for example, over there he's researched and found what St Clemens looks like. So we might have some of the buildings. The East India Trading Company might have like a shipping building, which looks like what the original one did, to try and make it a little bit fit with the theme as closely as possible.
There you go. So if you want to expand your adventures in Nine Worlds, you can go and check out that expansion with Creatures and Monsters, which is fantastic. And then if you want to look out for something in the future, Then we've got oranges and lemons to dive into as well, which is pretty cool too. So yeah, make sure to come back next year as well to UK Game Expo to see how this has developed and what's changed.
Developing, and we'll be at other conventions later in the year. And,
of course, yeah.
As well. So.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. That was fantastic talking. Medusa Games, come and check them out at their stand and everything like that. We'll be back with another video very soon. Don't forget to check out the live blog and the live stream and all that kind of stuff. We'll be back very soon. Bye for now.